I want to ask you something. Have you ever stopped and wondered if you are in a life transition? Maybe it doesn't strike you right away, but maybe there was a job change or a family shift or a health issue that came up, a move, a responsibility that you didn't expect. Well, suddenly the question became not, what do I do with my money? But instead became, how do I handle this? That's what I'd like to talk about today. Different financial decisions don't happen in calm, neat moments. They happen when life changes and people are trying to figure out what to do next. Most financial decisions happen during these transitions, not during the easy, predictable parts of life. Those are fun, but there's not usually the pressure to make financial decisions when things are moving along smoothly. They happen during change, during uncertainty, during moments when something shifts and people are trying to rethink what comes next. Sometimes a change is expected: a retirement, a career shift, children growing older, a new stage of life. And sometimes change shows up out of nowhere: an unexpected expense, a health issue, an income change, a family situation that suddenly needs attention. And when that happens, it's never just about money. When life feels uncertain, even a small financial decision can feel like a really big one. And you can start asking yourself, am I making the right choice? Should I wait? Should I be doing something else? And most importantly, what if I get this wrong? That emotional part is at the heart of financial decisions during transitions, because financial confidence doesn't come from having every answer. Life's unpredictable. Financial confidence comes from feeling steady enough to make thoughtful decisions when life is changing all around you. A lot of people think that financial planning is supposed to give them the perfect plan. But the reality is, life doesn't stay still long enough for that. Not only does life change, but even the way we define success can change over time. So good planning is really less about predicting the future and more about creating enough flexibility and freedom to handle the different possibilities that tend to come up in life. Maybe the future feels a little less certain than it once did. And when priorities shift, financial decisions can shift too. That doesn't mean you failed. It just means life happened. When people feel unclear financially, everything can start feeling urgent. And urgency does not lead to good decisions. People tend to want to move too quickly, I find, during transitions. Or maybe just they feel the pressure and therefore they're not thinking very clearly. So here's a tip: structure helps. Now, it doesn't remove uncertainty, but because it gives you a way of slowing down and having a decision matrix, it can help you get through those foggy parts of life a little more gracefully. I also think a lot of people carry unnecessary guilt about the decisions they made in a previous season of life. But guys, those decisions were made with the information that you had at the time, the priorities you had at the time, the pressure you were under at that time. And hindsight always looks clearer. So what matters now is slowing down and asking, where am I now? Not where I was then or where I thought I would be now, but really, where am I right now? What matters the most right now? And what decisions actually fit this season that I am in right now? Thoughtful planning isn't about perfection, it's about awareness. One of the simplest tools I like during a transition is the now, soon, and later brain dump. You get everything out of your head and onto paper. All the money decisions, all the worries, all the to-dos. Dump them all on a piece of paper. I often help clients to do this. We have a tool that helps you to do this. Once you've put everything that's swirling around in your head and your heart onto a piece of paper, and give yourself some time because it might take a while, you should feel a little lighter just by having done that. Take a step back. And then when you come back and look at all those swirling things on that piece of paper, you can sort them into 3 buckets. What needs attention now? What should be planned for pretty soon? And what can wait for later? This one step can make things feel much more manageable than just carrying it around with you. When things aren't swirling around in your head, it gets a lot easier to see what actually matters and what needs attention. I like this tool because it gives your transition some shape. Now is what needs attention immediately, has a deadline, for example. Soon is what matters, but it doesn't need to be solved immediately. And later can wait until things have calmed down a bit and feel a little steadier. That can become incredibly grounding, guys. I recommend that you try it. When you organize that mental clutter, it becomes so much easier to think clearly and move forward. One of the hardest parts of transition is accepting that what made sense before may not be what makes sense now. And again, that is not failure. That is adaptation. The financial transitionist approach recognizes that people move through seasons. So the question shouldn't be, why doesn't my old plan work anymore? The question should be, what does this season actually require now? Here are a few simple things that you can do when a life transition shows up in your lap. First, build a transition folder. You probably will be thinking about other things. You may not be thinking clearly. You may be under pressure. So keep important documents together in one place so that you're not scrambling later or feeling guilty for not knowing where everything is. Second thing you can do is to make a short list of priorities for this season, just for now, not forever. What's most important to you? Sometimes we use the question, what needs to be protected and what needs to be celebrated, and then what needs to be let go of. Very helpful in transitions work to think in those terms. The third thing you can do is the now, soon, and later brain dump. Anytime that things start piling up in your head. Now, the fourth thing you can do is to check in with someone you trust, a spouse, an advisor, a family member, someone who can help you think clearly and almost be a second brain instead of you trying to carry this all alone. If there's one thing I hope you take away from today, it's this. You don't need to have everything figured out, but you do need to recognize when life is changing. Because once you name your transition, you can respond to it more thoughtfully. You can slow down, get clear, and focus on what matters now, not what mattered in the past. You can make decisions that fit the life you're actually living and not the one you thought you'd be in. If you're navigating a transition right now and you want help making sense out of what comes next, that's the work I do as a certified financial transitionist. It's about helping people move through change with more clarity, more structure, and a little less stress.